戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is June 3rd, 2026. We are live on episode 946, and today, breaking the fourth seal. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, dropping phones, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films, and author of Prophecy Without Panic, recovering the patterns behind Bible prophecy. Your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It is a beautiful Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
And it was back in 2021 when NASA launches 128 baby squid and 5,000 tardigrades to the ISS aboard SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket to study effects of space flight. And we were already on the tardigrades trail by then, but of course,
this was
out into space.
This was a couple big tardigrades in space experiments along here. This was not the one where they crashed it into the moon, but it was the, got to populate and infest the ISS with the pestilence that is the cosmic interdimensional wormicorn, also known as tardigrades. Big deal.
And just to get everybody up to speed, June 2nd, 2026, astrobiology.com. Tardigrades as an emerging model animal for astrobiology research, a case study.
But astrobiology, by the way, it's easy to just read right over that, astrobiology, and it just kind of pings like, oh, something sciencey. That is biology of the stars, biology of space. Funny enough, if you've been around for long enough, you know this, but the number one category of scientists populating Antarctica is astrobiologists.
That's right.
Very why? They're going to Antarctica to study space biology.
Yeah. Yes, and they're only one tick away from the astrotheologians, which the Catholic Church got together with back in, I think, at the early 2000s. There was the astrobiology conference, and that's where the Pope and other leaders of the Catholic Church talked about what would it mean if aliens showed up? And then the Pope said, we would baptize the aliens. That's where that comes from. So Yeah, this whole using the word astro as part of the, I don't know, academic pillar of inquiry is fascinating. But yeah, in the context of
Beautiful stuff.
tardigrades, they can survive really, really cold temperatures. Now there's new science coming out. They can survive really, really hot temperatures when they get into this ton state. And so, the takeaway being that they are
Demons.
great. Yeah, they're great for inspiring. Let me just get this from phys.org here. The findings, which were gathered from this Eswarapa study, shows that it can potentially serve as an inspiration for the design of new materials and technologies that can operate at extreme temperatures. These technologies could be deployed in space, deserts, underwater, areas affected by wildfires, and in other challenging scenarios. So the
Nanobots,
Wormicorn,
baby.
yeah,
Demonic,
the Wormicorn,
demonic nanobots.
demonic nanobots, the Wormicorn, as we I don't know, maybe the Holy Spirit really led us, Basil, to obsess over the Wormicorn for some reason, or come up with this idea of a Wormicorn. These little worms.
These
in
random
space.
little obsessions, they always come back around.
Yeah, and so, and right in time for all this new UFO technology release stuff. Hey, all the UFOs, they got this technology that can withstand cold and hot, and it's just like the tardigrades.
Well, the tardigrades, it's a great stepping stone into them going, yes, there are aliens here, and an example of the aliens that have been with us for many, many years, perhaps even DNA seeding the blah blah blah, right? Great deception. They very easily could hold up tardigrades as an example. Like, we found tardigrades on Mars. Wow! So they're a part of the astrobiology, seeding life on Earth, something like that. Not that they have said that, but as we're getting ready, as we're bracing ourselves for alien disclosure, the Great Deception, that could very easily be one of them. What another animal that is a candidate for that is octopuses. They've talked about their big brains and their alien
they're very smart.
technology. Yes, their brains are like built into their tentacles and stuff. It's weird stuff. I love it.
Well, not squid. Jellyfish. Jellyfish is the other one.
Mm-hmm. There's some good news today. I have some good news because, we've noticed recently, it looks like, things are kind of picking up again. This is good news. Those who know the history of Canary Cry know that in 2021, we had multiple channels banned. And since then, we got these channels back, which was nice of YouTube. But we're finding that when we got banned in 2021, hundreds of thousands of people, we just disappeared for them, right? They never made it back. They never followed us on other platforms. We just kind of disappeared. And it's kind of part of the fun getting back, getting those channels back is every episode, there's people who are like, oh my gosh, you guys are back. I haven't seen you since 2021. Because, they were like relying on YouTube to see us. This is kind of part of the fun, new people rediscovering the show every episode. But we're about 4, maybe 5 minutes into the episode. And there's good news because Omerhurst in the chat says, Basil is insufferable. Please go. And I take this as a good thing because it seems like maybe Omerhurst was one of the Face Like the Sun, classic Face Like the Sun viewers who maybe just found the show again. So glad you're here, Omerhurst. And if you think I'm insufferable 5 minutes in, oh boy, you got another like 2.5 hours of this. So strap in.
My initial reaction to that type of visceral response to the sight of Basil, the voice of Basil, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
My initial gut reaction is, oh, the intel agencies are back. They're back at it into the chat, to try to disrupt. And the ops are back, which is probably a good sign, which means we're probably on an uptick. I did notice a huge swath of unsubs. Not that subs matter anymore on YouTube, but the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel just went through another subscription purge, which is hilarious because, of course, it's it's the analytics told me you've gained 1,500 new followers. It was like 1,500% higher than the prior 90 days, but my total sub count is down, So
Yeah, they gotta, they gotta balance it out for you,
yeah,
right? You don't want to get
keeping me in
what do they
a
call
nice
it?
little box.
Not
Tiny
the
room.
not discourage.
Oh, there's a specific, yes, I know what you're talking about. I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's to discourage people like us from making content at all, because I don't know, I don't know why we're so threatening to everybody. We're not.
Dangerous, man. It's dangerous around here. Watch out, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump into it for a second. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who joined the Canary Cry text message alert system. That is a great way to avoid us disappearing through whether it's we get our channel banned or YouTube just stops sending you notifications or it unsubscribes you, whatever the case may be. You should connect in a way that is not controlled by the big tech platforms. And a great way to do that is to text the word canary, CANARY, to the number 877-740-3226. Again, you got to text that word canary to 877-740-3226, and you will start getting text messages from me. I send out a little text before every show just to let you know we're going live. And the fun part is you can text us back at that number whenever you want. We cannot carry on a conversation with you via text. It's very expensive for us, but we do see all your messages. Sometimes we read them on the show. And so go ahead and do that. It's a good way to future-proof your ability to get the content that you want, or at least not lose us randomly someday and they just hope you don't notice and you go on with your life. And you can text us back like 785, just text it and says, the basil in my garden is popping off. Had some excellent fresh pesto last week. Very good. Good to hear, 785. Thank you very much. Oh, 678. Apparently, it's a big gardening day for everybody. This is TDL Press, says putting the seeds in action as well. Can't wait for the next supply drop. Talking about the GMO-free seeds, the non-Nephilim seeds that go out with the supply drop every spring. 970 says, let me just make sure this is thank God for our best buddy Baz and for Gons. You guys are fantastic, and the Canarium loves and appreciates all you do. Well, thank you very much, Krellin. Let's see here. I think this may have come in before the mean comments. Who knows? Okay. Thank you, Lord. We got a couple more people texting, but we will check back in with the text message alert system later on in the show because it is time to get into the news, Gons. Are you ready?
Yay. I think there's a lot. Yeah, I got a couple more things to say about a whole lot of things, but I will save it for later.
Okay, sure.
Oh, just mention Patreon. Patreon.com/facelikethesun. Go there, sign up if you haven't already. $5 a month to access the videos, $10 for the resources. I'll be breaking down the Exodus pattern, the
Bible study with Gons, by the way.
Bible study.
Omer Hurst, if you want some content that doesn't include me, you should go to the Face Like the Sun Patreon channel and get a weekly Bible study with Gons. Very special.
Yep. You'll get the resources for $10 a month. Basically, I will be breaking down the Exodus pattern and applying it to 1948, the modern creation of the nation state Israel. Does it hold up to prophecy? People often think that it is fulfillment of biblical prophecy. I'll be tackling that on Sunday. So, there you go.
Okay, good time. All right, Gons. So we are coming up. Here's the thing, and it just occurred to me, and there's a couple other producers who it occurred to, so thank God for them. But we did just hit June, which means we're barreling towards summer, which means for the Canarium, we are tiptoeing our way into Burning Man research territory. I got a couple of months, and usually this totally catches us by surprise, and then we're scrambling at the end. But this is very special, very important, because the mainstream media is setting the stage for something that we here at Canary Cry have been studying intimately for 8 years at least. But going back to our first episodes with Carl Tykrib, we're talking 12 years. So a very important I guess, meta study for us. But we're coming up on the Burning Man research trip coming up in a couple months. We'll have more fun stuff coming about that soon. We got to get our buddy, the lead researcher at the Camp of the Unknown God, leading his research team out there every year, doing spiritual demography, doing evangelism, just incredible fruit coming out of those trips every year. But Carl Teichrieb, our close personal friend here at the show, who wrote the book Game of Gods, and part of, I mean, a main interest in his research for us is this idea of re-enchantment, okay? Coming from his sort of vanguard frontline research over at Burning Man, which serves as a petri dish for future, I guess, cultural control, not even just cultural, but government control, regulation control, these sorts of things are all beta tested in the Burning Man petri dish. And one thing that was, that he saw coming ages ago was re-enchantment, that we would be moving into an age of humanity where the Enlightenment principles, the strict stronghold of scientism, the materialism that the adversary has worked so diligently to push out any concept of the unseen realm, the spiritual world, would begin to weaken and fall apart. And surely our, again, sort of meta research over these many years have documented step by step in real time the disintegration of that stronghold and the return to the age of re-enchantment. And it's always interesting, God's timing, how he works through his sovereignty in the mainstream sort of roadmap that they lay out. The timing is amazing, because as we are beginning to prepare and get ready for this year's Burning Man research project, the New York Post, is it the New York Post? No, it's the New York Times. The New York Times. Oh, Agans, I see a link is actually mislinked in, no, it's not. There it is. Okay. The New York Times just came out a couple weeks ago with an article in the opinion section called "Are We Sliding Back into the Middle Ages?"
Wait, is it a question, the version you have? Because it's a statement.
Sorry.
Online.
No, we are sliding. We are sliding, not a question. This is a statement. We are sliding back into the Middle Ages, which is actually, it seems like kind of just like a New York Times kind of snarky, I don't know, leftist or atheist kind of comment, like, oh, Trump, we're sliding back into the Middle Ages kind of thing. But the reference to the Middle Ages is actually a really fascinating place to, I guess, compare where we're going. Because, of course, if you're like a missing history kind of person and talking Tartaria or, this kind of thing, the Middle Ages is an interesting place because, where the scientific community says, oh, it's the Middle Ages. We don't know much about it because nobody was writing anything down. And, Christianity was burning books. And so it's this mysterious, absent place in history that we kind of just need to infer what happened. But if you're a alt history kind of person, the Middle Ages was purposefully erased from our documented history because that's when we had free energy, or that's when, Tartaria ruled the world. That's when, this kind of thing, right? I'm not an expert in it, but the Middle Ages, where in that worldview, the world was enchanted, right? Energy was pulled from space and who knows, flying cars. Again, not an expert, but it was like this ultra enchanted period in human history that needed to be erased in order for the materialistic, scientific,
the Enlightenment to
principles
come
to take
bring
over.
us out of the Dark Ages, which was
Right.
the result of the Middle Ages.
Yeah, right. So here we go. Let's get into it. We are
hold on. We need to properly introduce the segment. We can say that we are being re-enchantmentatious. a song, maybe. Incantations. Yeah, there you go. It works. There's nothing you can do. Your reincantations. Listen to your it's when we're here to do the message show. And sorry, this is everything you know.
Thank you, Jonathan F. Love it when we can pull some excellent producer production from the far distant past, perhaps even from the Middle Ages of Canary Cry, and re-enchant it into the show. That's a sweet, sweet Jonathan F. track there. Goodness gracious, 717 just texted, I planted sweet potatoes today. Okay, everybody's doing their garden. All right, back to the article. We are sliding back into the Middle Ages. This is beautiful. Carl, I hope you're listening. If not, we're going to try to get Carl back on the show soon. Here we go. In 2024, Tucker Carlson revealed that he had been physically attacked in his bed by a demon, quote, or by something unseen. The entity left 4 claw marks on each of his sides and on his left shoulder. He said he was bleeding when he woke. Catholic and Orthodox clergy weighed in publicly, with an Orthodox priest lamenting that Mr. Carlson's Episcopalian faith left him ill-equipped to respond to such an attack. So right off the bat, this particular instance, the Tucker Carlson demonic attack, actually was an important turning point in the online culture, because this was really when signaled the full-on implementation or implication or full-on worldview inclusion in the alt media, from Tucker Carlson to Candace Owens, Nick Fuente, whatever, even Alex Jones. Tucker Carlson's mention of being attacked by a demon really was the starting gun for the casual talk about true supernatural worldview in this kind of mainstreaming of the alt media, right? So that's it's actually a very insightful way for this Katja Ungerman to start this article. Very relevant, and I think very true, matches up. So already she gets points that she really, in my opinion, even though she's coming from a different perspective, she's actually really seeing these events in media in a similar way that we are. And then
she's recognizing the effects or the significance of such things. I think it's funny that she outlines sort of the real estate battle over Tucker Carlson, between the different factions of faith.
The mentions immediately of Catholic and Orthodox clergy, also very insightful, because although we have been tracking the sort of resurgence of interest in Christianity for many years now, it's recently, in the past year, maybe two, become a well-known accepted fact that there's some kind of revival going on. And specifically, by the numbers, the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church are seeing the biggest numbers in this mainstreaming or revival of Christendom. So she's picking out the correct characters and factions that line up exactly with what we've been talking about in real time. Putting down Carlson's Episcopalian faith, so leaving him ill-equipped to respond to such an attack. More recently, Greg Phillips, the head of FEMA's Office for Response and Recovery, made news for claiming that he had once been teleported by forces beyond his control to a Waffle House 50 miles away in Rome, Georgia. The Times sent a reporter to track down the workers and regulators at all 3 of Rome's Waffle House locations, but nobody remembered Mr. Phillips, as if that's, again, some great debunking. Okay. So now bringing up the recent, if not sort of demonic, the maybe scientific, the supernatural still, teleportation of a government official, another mainstreaming event of a topic like teleportation. In a less esoteric vein, this past Easter, Catholic priests and dioceses across the country welcomed the largest classes of converts they had seen in 15 or more years. Eastern Orthodox parishes are also reporting a surge in growth, particularly among young men. It's great. I love when a New York Times opinion writer, watches the show so religiously that they're able to recite, the things that we've been reporting on. Quote, in the whole history of the Orthodox Church in America, one Antiochian Orthodox priest told the Times, this has never been seen. One piece of content, I hope we find a way, it's not quite complete, but find a way to, that the Lord finds a way to put out for us here, is my heretofore unpublished search for the Orthodox Christians that apparently attend Burning Man every year. The backdrop of all of this is the peculiar atmosphere of contemporary public life, claustrophobic, faintly hallucinatory, where what we know as real feels like sand shifting under our feet. The First Lady, Melania Trump, walks a humanoid robot. She's even getting the flippy update in this article. Melania Trump walks a humanoid robot down a White House red carpet and later tells the audience to imagine a future humanoid educator named Plato. A former intelligence official testifies under oath that the United States has been secretly retrieving and reverse engineering crashed UFOs for decades, and that non-human biologics have been recovered. Really spanning the gamut here. Demonic vexation, teleportation, increased interest in religious practice, those phenomena are all signs that life feels, to many, increasingly charged with unseen forces. You might say it has been re-enchanted. Right there. You might say it has been re-enchanted. It's come to pass, Gons, what God has been doing here on the show.
Unbelievable.
A widespread feeling, re-enchanted, by the way, a coin termed by Carl Teichreib, not a term that was like in the popular lexicon. There's a widespread feeling that the material explanation is no longer sufficient, as if it ever was sufficient. That something uncanny, maybe even numinous, is diffused into the texture of ordinary American life. I think anybody paying attention to broader culture can admit that's exactly what we've been identifying. Pew, that's Pew Research, found in 2024 that 30% of Americans consult astrology, tarot cards, or fortune tellers at least once a year. Again, referring to our witch talk segments and the sort of new ageification of mainstream sort of atheism or secular culture. New age practices are even more popular among some demographics, like younger women and LGBTQ adults. During my first pregnancy, I received Reiki, or energy healing, treatment for my unborn son. It's now offered at major hospitals across the country. Jeez. What is going on? Why is the world re-enchanting itself now? So she mentions this phrase twice, meaning she's operating in the coining of this term. She's initiating people into the use of an official term, re-enchantment. Not just a phrase she kind of threw out to describe something. In 1917, the sociologist Max Weber argued that a long process of rationalization culminating in modernity was eliminating, quote, mysterious, incalculable forces from the world. Like we described before starting the article, science would explain, technology would master, and magic would disappear. For such a brief stretch of modern history, he seemed right. The enduring human instinct to believe in the otherworldly declined as empiricism, common evidentiary standards, and for the shortest period of all, mass media produced a rough consensus about what was real. Now we seem to be sliding back. So right there, admitting and vocabularizing what is a core principle of the way we analyze things is that it's the institutions who are responsible for crafting reality for everybody else, and that the mass media was responsible for not just reporting what was real. In fact, reporting what was real is really not part of it at all, but it was enforcing consensus reality on the masses.
Yeah.
Three. Go ahead.
Before you move on there, so I read a ton of Max Weber
Mhm.
in college for my sociology degree that I never completed. I completed all the upper whatever it was called. I forget, it was upper division work, whatever it was called. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was sociology was my major, and I read a lot of Max Weber, and I remember thinking, and this is before I was even a believer. I remember thinking, man, if this is all we got, this is really sad. You know,
Mhm.
like if this is the only way we can explain and understand the world, it's really sad because everything is sort of reduced to some material sense that's measurable and calculable in some way, um, which ironically for me it was like you can either you could go two ways. One way is nihilism, that really nothing matters at all, we're just molecules in motion, the whole atheist train. Or there's an existence of a god who created all this, and there was an intelligent mind prior to human minds to flood this information sphere with parameters and rules and that kind of thing,
Right.
which was tended to be more of my speed and at least understanding the world. And that's why when I started to look into the existence of God and who Christ is and all this stuff, it made a lot more sense because I was set up in college to be a nihilist and
Right.
and just think that nothing matters and there's no magic and technology and science will explain everything. And you can see how that just perpetuates the God-shaped hole in people's hearts. So anyway,
Yeah.
interesting that they would bring up Max Weber here.
No, and it's a great point. And yeah, nihilism, it's kind of interesting because to a degree, nihilism was defeated not too long ago, but a little while ago, maybe during the millennial sort of generation. But what
Yeah.
we've seen recently, and was sort of a very clever play by the enemy and by the institutions that is really vexing people now, is the Gen Z version of nihilism. We've noted is absurdism, right?
Absurdism. Yeah.
Nihilism didn't quite work, didn't quite hold, doesn't quite make sense because, like this article and like we've been saying, people are sensing this unseen realm. People are experiencing it on a regular basis. So now the very clever attempt again to lead people away from like the supernatural or specifically Christianity and God is not nihilism, but what it's morphed into, which is absurdism, the Gen Z absurdism, and
Like
which
the
leads to
skibbity toilets.
yeah, that's part of it for sure. But an example of this was the way that it has been described with Gen Z violence, with this new generation of doped up kids committing shootings and things like that, where that used to maybe be categorized as nihilist violence, like nothing
Yeah.
matters, so why not do this? But now it's absurdist violence, where the sort of lack of grasp of a solid sort of materialistic and scientific foundation, and yet in the attempt to avoid the truth of God, leaves something in the middle, which is absurdism, which again allows, like nihilism, things like violence, but just has a different flavor to it, almost like even like a more psychotic flavor in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Well,
much related to like Gen Z memery and slop and things like that.
Well, and you can see how culture had, in the wake of Enlightenment, the rise of science fiction, I don't think is discussed enough because in the 20th century, science fiction really became a thing, and it was framed as this like, oh, this is progress in science and technology. This is sort of the outworking of the Enlightenment and materialism and all this, and that created these grandiose visions of what could be in space travel and all these different topics, which ironically, as Arthur C. Clarke talked about, his third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It's it's bringing us back around to
Yeah.
to the place we once were, sort of philosophically. So it's just interesting
Yeah.
how that works.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was just having kind of a deep, kind of trippy conversation with somebody recently. And we were talking about the difference between science fiction as a genre and
Yeah.
other genres, but like an example is fantasy, right? You look at the media, the movies, they have a very few categories are being sort of released. One of them, and this will line up with what you said a second ago, one of them is fantasy, kind of the Game of Thrones, dragons, elves, that Tolkien, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Versus science fiction. These are two
Right.
genres that have really passionate and broad audiences. And the difference that I saw was, the question is, why pick one over the other? Like, what need or what desire is being accomplished by favoring one category over the other? And where fantasy nowadays, modern fantasy, figures into more of an escapism, like I'm going to go into this fantastic world just so I don't have to be here, and you can find some whatever you get from that. Whereas science fiction serves more of a prophetic role, because in science fiction, and you can see this through modern history of the science fiction of the 20th century, all the science fiction of the mid 20th century was just describing where we are now in the sort of fantastical science fiction from 1984 to, Brave New World, to Total Recall, to even the Mind Babies book that we just reported on, even the most obscure science fiction. Because within science fiction, the author is always saying, taking something they see around them and bringing it out to its absurd end. Right? They'll see a trend or they'll see a technology of their time, and they'll extend that out far enough into the future to where the absurdity of that thing creates problems, right? And it's often considered a warning, often utopic warnings, technological warnings. So it has kind of this prophetic thing to it. Whereas fantasy, somebody rarely reads a fantasy book and then, 10 years down the line says, oh, Game of Thrones told us this would happen,
Yeah. So I think what you're tapping into is, I believe it's Rod Serling who commented on some of this stuff, and the summary of sort of his handling the difference between science fiction and fantasy fiction is that science fiction explores the improbable made possible. So it's rooted in scientific logic and natural laws and stuff, and then it kind of brings that to where it can go. Whereas with fantasy, it's the improbable made probable, or impossible, I guess, the impossible made probable through magic and different defying natural laws being defied as the basis for a world that's created or something like that. So I think it's interesting.
Interesting way to put it. Yeah, I think he's saying the same thing.
Same thing. Yep.
Back to the article here, talking about the media.
3 changes.
Creating consensus and dictating reality. 3 changes in both the kind of information we receive and the way we receive it may help explain what's going on. And this is when they start getting their explanation. This is where crafting the secular excuse for these things, is a practice that they're very passionate about. Okay. The first is that in the era of digital technology and the endless scroll, the mind is being asked to do more than it comfortably can. The brain is a pattern matching machine. Most of the time, it's like a piece of software running in the background, synthesizing information without your noticing. Notice how, in order to explain all of this stuff, they need to think of the mind as a computer, as a machine. instead of
processing
a
machine.
soul, right? Instead of a
yeah.
consciousness, instead of a supernatural being. They have to compare it to something we invented. You walk into a room and instantly read the mood. You glance at a friend's face and know something is wrong before they tell you. Today, there's just too much information, and we're noticing patterns that don't exist. Classic
Mm.
anti-conspiracy theorist, anti-fringe person. Yeah, you're seeing it, but don't believe your eyes, okay? Don't believe what you see. This mental overload, could be overlord.
It
This
could be
mental
overload.
overload is how you get from, quote, "That's an odd coincidence," to, quote, "Nothing is a coincidence." It's the same type of thinking that produces QAnon and other conspiracy theories. It's what
There it
happens
is.
when a stranger on TikTok tells a million viewers that this video was, quote, "meant to find them." And many of them, despite being vaguely aware of how recommendation algorithms work, take it as a sign that supernatural forces are at work. And I love this because what they're saying
Yeah.
is, if somebody makes a TikTok and says, "Oh, you're seeing this because God wanted you to see it," or because the universe, usually a little bit more new age, right?
Yeah.
And this equivalency that she is saying here is that, creating that content tricks people into thinking that destiny exists. And while I'm not saying that that kind of content is truly destiny, right? Because those algorithms are currently,
They're
present.
real. The algos are real. Yeah.
Right. So it's an effect of the technology. It's a technological destiny or something. But we know that because the enemy, the devil, can't create anything, can only counterfeit things. And we've talked about the digital realm, this created invisible realm, acts as the enemy's counterfeit of the spiritual realm, right? In the
Yeah.
absence of belief in a true spiritual realm, the digital world, the internet, acts as a counterfeit of God's created spiritual realm and has the effect of initiating people into sort of this unseen world thinking, but using the counterfeit, which is often very dangerous. That's where we're going to get into AI psychosis and algorithmic things driving people nuts. So this person is identifying a real thing, but just again framing it in this sort of impotent materialistic kind of sense.
Well, just to
Mhm.
point out the concept that she's pointing out rightly, sort of the difference between people using the hook of like, oh, you're meant to see this, whether it's a belief in God or New Age or whatever, and the algorithms at work. So there's a distinction there, but at the same time, you can argue that those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive either.
There's a
it's not.
supernatural aspect to it, but just
Yeah.
maybe that's not coming from the the side or the supernatural beings that you might think it is. It is
Right.
coming at you through the devil's counterfeit digital world, and we know that the enemy uses these algorithms because of the fruit, right? The fruit
Right.
of these algorithms is almost entirely evil all the time.
Yeah, I know. But then you look at the Bible and how many things that are meant for evil were turned into ultimately for his purpose, for his good, right? So
Right.
so
God's very
you can
clever in his
see that.
sovereignty.
Yep. All right, sorry,
Uses
continue.
uses the evil for things that are for his goodness. Okay. The
Mhm.
second change has to do with proof and evidence. Doctored photographs predate AI and even the digital camera, but fabricating proof used to take work. AI has removed that friction. Any claim can now be furnished with evidence on demand, evidence increasingly indistinguishable from the real thing. And since so much evidence can now be fabricated, any piece of evidence can be dismissed. Again, very, I would say, wisely
An astute observation. Yeah.
perceiving what we've been saying since the early AI of like 2017. It's not that you can be tricked by the AI. Well, you can, but it's not that that's the ultimate threat, but it's that it can make you dismiss real evidence, which in her way of using it here, she's using it in the sort of scientific materialist way, but it can also be applied to the supernatural worldview, right? Moving on. Finally, there's institutional decay.
There it is.
There we go. Okay, institutional decay. The paranoid explanation keeps turning out the part. Wait, sorry. Finally, there's institutional decay. The paranoid explanation keeps turning out to be partly right. To give just one high-profile example, Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, spent decades downplaying how addictive its products was, even as it fueled an overdose pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Now, it's funny because you talk about institutional decay and why we've all lost faith in the institutions. She's using Purdue Pharma as the example of losing faith in institutions because Purdue Pharma lied to us about opioids for a very long time. She's not using, the government or other big pharma companies or, the CDC, not using COVID as an example where everybody lied to us for so long. And it's now, convinced even the most ardent sort of materialists that the government can't be trusted. No, it's Purdue Pharma. We can all very sort of harmless. You can tell she doesn't want to anger the New York Times writers by giving other maybe more prudent examples of what we would say to be justified institutional decay.
When the funding would go away if they do too much of that. So
right, exactly.
You got to keep it kosher.
When events like that one happen often enough, people lose confidence in institutional authority. There goes, quote, the science, or, quote, the church, or, quote, the official story. Demonology, astrology, or conspiracy theories about satanic pedophile cabals ruling the world fill the gap.
I like that logic there. I like how all those things they're just filling the gap of what the greater loss in trust in the institutions is. You just get flooded with this.
You're so mad about Epstein because Purdue Pharma lied to you. The result of all those conditions is that life has begun to feel governed by forces beyond our understanding. It's almost like they are. It's almost like they are. Like this gal is coming from the perspective that it was good and true when the mass media was dictating reality and when institutions had total control. The result of all those conditions is that life has begun to feel governed by forces beyond our understanding, by knowledge that is unverifiable, and by authority that is distant and suspect. It is, in a word, beginning to feel medieval.
I like that. That's funny. It is sort of where you land. Because of course, we are not governed by forces of our understanding forces that are beyond our understanding, and knowledge that is unverifiable, and authority that is maybe not suspect. Distance and suspect is very skeptical of any supernaturalism there, but I just find it interesting that it's the only point of reference this author has to any sort of time in history that can relate to this is the medieval times.
Right.
It's like not a belief in a higher power ever, or spiritual entities or a spirit realm or something like that. It's just the medieval times is the horrible dark ages that we got into with that era is the only thing she can hold on to relate to it. That's very interesting, very telling.
And exactly, listen to what she's saying. She's saying the idea that we can't trust institutions, the idea that there is a controlling force that we don't understand, and that doesn't even have to be like God or supernatural. She's even just saying, like, because our explanations for who's in charge, like the government, corporations, because they're invisible in a way. They're sort of theoretical. They're sort of invisible or whatever, because we don't accept the materialistic explanation of who's in charge. We're medieval. Like, we're so backwards to think that, the government isn't fully in charge or whatever. And you could even include like the cabal in there, right? The cabal is just an example of an invisible ruling power. Anywho, she brings it back around here. I do not believe that re-enchantment in itself is the main problem. After all, re-enchantment doesn't mean, quote, irrational or, quote, untrue or, quote, conspiracy, though it can lead there. Even this is a pretty interesting thing to admit. You can tell she's really walking.
She's struggling. I feel like she's struggling to really grasp on to what's going on right now.
I see. That's the thing, because that feeling that people are beginning to understand or to experience, and the re-enchantment that society is experiencing as a whole, you can tell she's experiencing, right? She's experiencing it. She kind of knows it. She feels it. But she's trying to find a rational explanation at all costs to avoid saying that there's a God, right? And so while experiencing the re-enchantment herself, you can tell she's trying to like talk herself into an explanation. Rather, let me go back. After all, re-enchantment doesn't mean irrational or untrue or conspiracy, though it can lead there. So she's like, okay, I'm re-enchanted too, but I'm not crazy, okay? I'm not irrational and a conspiracy theorist.
I like the fairies.
Rather, it's she admitted she had Reiki done on her unborn child. So she's there. She's just
she's already
fighting
there
with it, Rather, it's which goes back to what we were talking about with UFOs and all these kinds of topics, is as you start digging in, as you start researching, you inevitably come to a fork in the road. And the fork in the road everybody comes to is either Christ or New Age. You have to choose one. If you go down far enough understanding the world around us, you have to make a choice between Christ and New Age. And in her case, you can tell she's taken the New Agey side, right? Rather, it's the reemergence, talking about re-enchantment, it's the reemergence of one of the oldest and most durable features of human experience. Yeah, you mean like since the garden? Like that kind of oldest enduring experience, that there's a supernatural realm? I agree with you. It's the reemergence of one of the oldest, most durable features of human experience, the sense that the world is bigger than what human knowledge can, at a particular moment, measure. I mean, she's right on. She's right on there. The first step is admitting to yourself that there are things that you may never understand, or that you, in a way, like are not built to understand until, revelation comes to us. But it's not a coincidence that many of our most famous scientists were obsessed with the ideas that we'd now find crazy. Thomas Edison, for example, claimed to be working on a device that would try to receive the voices of the dead. But enchantment mutates when it's untethered from a foundation, from a community that acts as a check on the most wild and destructive instincts. You mean like a church? You mean like a community of people understanding the supernatural unseen elements? Yeah, exactly. Who's untethered from a community? Is it the re-enchanted author who's New Age and feels kind of alone in her supernatural understanding? So that seems to be more of the one at danger of re-enchantment than the one who finds Christ, joins a church and also the body of Christ, a huge community of billions of believers around the world, acting on a check as the most wild and destructive instincts. She's kind of condemning her own side of things. by admitting
That's again showing her trauma and maybe some pain points more
Yeah.
so than anything. Like the analysis is not beyond her own suffering, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Okay, almost done here. In a Rolling Stone article about AI-induced spiritual crises, the writer Miles Klee spoke to an unnamed source whose partner had messaged extensively with ChatGPT. Eventually, the partner came to believe he was God. Yeah, because
that's
the
sort of the
adversary
default mode of humans. That's
the adversary, as you know,
oh
again, speaking about the science fiction of the mid 20th century, the cyberneticists were the ones who connected the occult and the
yeah.
supernatural to technology. It's built into the very architecture of the computer chips that are being used to create a homunculus or a golem called AI that can serve as an embodiment or a portal from the supernatural unseen realm of disembodied Nephilim spirits called demons to be able to speak to people and tell them that they're God. The original sin of humanity, thinking that we can be gods, being tricked by a slithery serpent who comes in and says, no, you can be as God. She's telling the story of the Garden of Eden.
I was gonna say,
right
has
here.
anybody shown her? Do you think her mind would be blown if you showed her some of those early passages in Genesis 3 there? You know, it feels
That's the thing. That's why you eventually come up against the fork in the road of New Age and
yeah.
Christianity, and
Yeah.
why Christ is the right answer, because every conclusion she's coming to here is not only explained, but foretold from the
Yeah.
very beginning of human existence. Dare I say, having an anchor to a community of Christians, Christ following believers, not just alive in modern day, but a tradition of thousands of years of people aware of and thinking through the very struggles that she's, so lost and, can find scientific reasons. Our brains are computers. So, of course, eventually the partner came to believe he was God. He had an ecstatic experience with a product that has a stake in keeping him engaged. You mean like a demon? His story might have ended differently inside a spiritual community where someone could have told him to slow down. Like church? Like a church? The world we're moving into will look more... I could go on. Okay, I'm not gonna. The world
Yeah,
we're moving
we can't.
into
Yeah.
will look more like the one before the modern era than like the one we grew up in. It will
Oh, yeah, the
be
one we grew up in was
saturated.
so nice.
Yeah, it will be saturated with the supernatural. Everyone will be believe in something. The question is in what? Is this not
Wait a minute.
explicitly, directly
Wait
from
a minute.
Carl Teichert and what we've been talking about for the New York Times is laying out in sort of unfortunate ways the entire canary cry theory of everything that has brought us to now and explains our future. It's incredible. It's beautiful.
Well, I would argue maybe New York Times is now like a trailing indicator. I mean, for us, it's a trailing indicator for everything that we've talked about. So the fact that they are at this point suggests some pretty big paradigm shifts approaching at the mass scale, if you will. And to that effect, you guys have been going to Burning Man, and you guys have been in the trenches in that regard and looking at it. And of course, Carl Teichert's book here, Game of Gods, if you haven't gotten it, what year was this published? I'm trying to find the publishing year.
Around 2012, maybe 2014. I don't remember.
Well, this version of it is 2018.
Printing.
But I know he had written on it, and he had blog posts on it and stuff like that for years before then. But
maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, well, he's discussed, obviously the re-enchantment appears multiple times according to the little index in the back here. He's got 20 some odd pages that mentions the word. But in one of the examples, it talks about how this is a specific example, but they quote the Mission Planet Earth, a youth edition of Agenda 21, or sorry, Rescue Mission Planet Earth. and it's written and illustrated by children for children. And one of the quotes in here of the rescue mission for Agenda 21, it says, the agenda suggests no new government structures to implement even its own proposals, let alone the ones to leave out. We need a new way of governing the whole planet. The problems we face are bigger than any single country. And he goes on to talk about how the re-enchantment was being politicized even back then. And this is back in, I think, like the 90s when this stuff was being passed around. And so even back then, it wasn't like, oh, we're creating this one world government from the top down. It was more so in the context of, well, we're doing it kind of grassroots-ish. It's going to go, it's going to appeal to this problem societally, and the young people are going to address it as a way to, hey, we need to come together apart from the governments. That's how you create that new world order, one world government type thing. And similarly, and more to the point of this author, or not the author of the New York Times article, he outlines, let's see, on page 522 here, some of the different camp names at Burning Man. So this is a while ago. If he's writing this in this is 2017, I suppose. And I'm not going to go through all that, but he's outlining how there's a lot of spiritual but not religious type of sentiment. And it says here, Burning Man itself is a platform to explore alternative spiritualities. Re-enchantment, a culture, and myth are ingrained in many of the activities and artwork. Messages of cosmic oneness are prevalent, along with workshops in yoga, shamanism, goddess rituals, sacred femininity, tarot, and esoteric philosophy. And it talks about how Christianity is mocked. Irreverence for all things is expected, but in terms of religious messaging, Christianity is seriously derided. And that changed a little bit, though, had it not, this past time?
A little bit. So yeah, that has been, I mean, a core principle of what we've found out there with the spiritual demography is that the biggest group of people there are ex or post Christians who are seeking in this new space. And, Burning Man, everybody out there would admit this and tell you this. This author is saying, oh, it's so dangerous to have a supernatural worldview if you don't have a community to like check your instincts. And Burning Man is maybe it is at least the biggest example of being that new age community, right? Where everybody there is, not everybody, but tons of people are ex and post Christian. They have a lot of church hurt, or they just grew up with it, or maybe they were just sort of culturally Christian. It was never really a part of their lives. And they are feeling the re-enchantment. They know there's an unseen realm. They see it around them. And so going to Burning Man is like, that is their church, basically. That is their spiritual community. And it's comprised of, a million different ideas on things. But, and the spirituality that people are seeking, as we've covered, is often through things, of course, like pharmakia, psychedelics, a huge part of it, but technology is a huge part of it. A lot of the workshops, the lectures, this is where things like AI, Bitcoin, all the biggest tech buzzwords, they show up in sort of underground punk rock lecture style things at Burning Man years before they take hold in the broader global culture, right? That's why we say it's kind of the petri dish. And so all this AI spirituality, all this kind of thing is sort of cultivated and harvested from that spiritual community in Burning Man, including all the creators of AI, all the CEOs of Google, all these kind of people. So they are those kind of people. That is the atmosphere in which the seeds of the technology, are planted in its creators. And so, of course, in the place like Burning Man, where everybody thinks they're gods and everybody thinks they're, anything but Christianity, of course, that same bacteria is then cultivated in AI. And so AI becomes a vector, a disease spread vector for that sort of new age theology, which is what we've seen has caused all the AI psychosis. You spend enough time talking to AI, it will convince you that you're a genius, you're a god, you've cracked the code, you're special, you're a star seed. So that, the sort of spiritual lineage of what we see in just regular mainstream life runs directly through Burning Man, a collection of the people who chose the left-hand path, the new age path, and we see the product of that in all the worst effects we see in broader culture.
Yeah. So at the very end of this article, she says, everyone will believe in something. The question is in what? As sort of this saturated with supernatural, this world before the modern era, as if to say in the modern era, we don't believe in anything. Is that, I don't know. This is kind of a weird thing.
Truer, as if the modern era materialism, scientism was the truth,
empirically true. Yeah.
The empirical truth, again, as she admits, created and sustained and enforced by institutions and mass media. She's implying that the world where institutions and mass media created and enforced reality for everybody was somehow truer than the time before that, right? And so she's kind of coming at it from a weird direction, but she's basically reiterating, the theory of everything that's been a huge part of our analysis for many, many years now.
And they're
finding a way out.
Yeah, the header graphic for this New York Times opinion piece is this painting of looks kind of like a street corner. There's like robots crossing the street, an alligator coming out of a sewer, and a businessman being abducted by an alien or a UFO, I guess, with a businessman walking with a Men in Black walking with an alien, a guy going through a portal, an angel, guy coming out of the another side of the portal, a demon-like figure in the sky, people praying in the window. So it's this sort of hodgepodge of all the supernaturalism.
Yeah, the visualization of the things that happen around us in the spiritual all the time. Right?
Yes. But in the context of modernity, having the robot in there to reference AI, having the UFO there, this is, I think, where the greater culture is being pulled into that re-enchantment mindset or worldview. It has to do with setting everybody up for the inevitable, and we've called it the Great Deception, but truly it's the inevitable narrative craft of who are these other beings that the government is introducing as, hey, these aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the same time, who are we creating with this AI? Are we creating other entities, or is it God? We might say they're demons or whatever, but it's really reflective in the other pieces, the more enchantment section that's right under this article. Hey, New York Times is like, hey, go read these other articles about the same thing.
Search the heuristic for enchantment on New York Times.
Yes, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, give us the aliens.
Oh, perfect.
And this was just a month ago. And then from the end of last year, your phone isn't a drug, it's a portal to the other world.
Wow.
Another opinion piece. And be open to spiritual experiences. Also, be really careful. This is from 2023. So they've been at sort of the groundwork of this, but I think using specifically the phrase re-enchantment shows that Carl was just spot on in identifying the verbiage to describe what the culture will pick up on when it comes to how to understand this phenomenon. And just as a side note, and we started with the topic of fantasy fiction and science fiction and all this stuff. The trailer, or I guess I don't know if it's a trailer or like the film art for The Odyssey just dropped today, Basil, the Christopher Nolan film. And do you see it on the screen there? It's, it's the guy, he's in his sort of medieval outfit, but then he's facing like an army of giants in its own armor, so talking about bringing back the Nephilim. He's bringing
facing up against the Nephilim.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the other thing that dropped today was the trailer for God of War. It's called Cube. You see this? It's like this rainbowy cube. It's like an offshoot of the God of War story.
Game, or is this
the game God of War. the very famous game. And I'm seeing people say like, I don't understand the cube. Why is it a cube? I don't know. I don't get it. Where is the cube relevant? And maybe they mean in the context of the God of War,
the game
universe that's created in the game. But in general, it's just funny how it's inevitable. They can't get away from certain types of symbols, whether it's the Nephilim or the cube or something. It's like they just have to reintegrate it into the modern mythology that informs people. And whether people know it or not, and this has been the topic of predictive programming with TV shows and stuff for a long time. And I think more and more in our generation and younger, it's video games. How do they, I guess, the elite or whatever, how do they program the minds to accept certain quote unquote realities that will become public knowledge, such as maybe aliens or interdimensional beings or time travel or portals or whatever, these sort of fringe ideas that were not necessarily scientifically viable 100 years ago, but certainly are becoming that way. And then the barrier between what we discussed earlier with science fiction versus fantasy fiction starts to break down, because no longer is it just an inquiry about where the material sciences can take us. It's also tapping into what is improbable and impossible in a sense when it comes to a fantasy world that's created in stories. And that's why you think about the Tower of Babel. God said, if he doesn't divide the languages, nothing they imagine to do will be impossible for them. So it says in Genesis 11. So if you think about what that means, it sounds like a very enchanted type of reality back then, that anything you imagine you can pull off, which is a very modern new agey type of thinking. And again, it's just interesting to hear the take coming from who is this author again? What is her name?
Katja Ungerman. Okay, so she's also the one that wrote the opinion piece at the end of last year. Your phone isn't a drug; it's a portal to the other world. So she's on it.
She's been exploring this. Yeah, and maybe we can have her on. And we can interview this woman and find out more about where she's coming from. And
I'm sure the New York Times calling us.
Maybe we can, rip her out of the depths of Hades, Basil. Bring her into the light.
All right, Guns. I'm looking at the time, 2:30 here. We had an article about where to put this next article. Seeing as it's yours, you want to try to blast through it before the executive producers, or should we make sure to get the producers?
Let's get the producers in, and let's tackle through it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll take a second because we are on the value for value model. No corporations, platforms, anything like that is responsible for keeping this show alive, because we don't want those strings attached. And why would we participate in the global theology, the mass church of advertising, of brainwashing, with its spiritual and literal ancestry going back to Edward Bernays, the creator of propaganda, back to his uncle Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalyst and pervert. We just want nothing to do with it. So no corporations are involved in keeping this show alive, and that's not an easy way to do it, but we believe that's how that's how God wants us to do it. So instead, we're on the value for value model, which means that this show will not survive if it ceases to bring value to people's life. And everybody understands. Some people consider it a responsibility. Other people consider it a gift. That if this show brings any value to your life and any frequency at any depth or impact, it is up to all of us to keep the show alive. And it simply means, if you get any value out of the show, pray about it, ask God, what does that value look like, and put the value back in. And you can do that with your time, your talent, or your treasure, okay? Whatever it is that God has given you, equipped you with, to make the choices to serve his kingdom in the way you feel led, you can support the show with that. If you go on over to canarycry.support, you can learn more about it and perhaps even produce the show. That's right. If you want to put value back into the show by helping us out with stuff, our back end processes, our special projects, if you have a skill or a vocation that you can apply to the community, that's awesome. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, any sort of creative endeavor, you can create whatever you create for the show. All you got to do is go to canarycry.art. You can upload it there. We'd love to feature it on the show. And you never know, we'll feature it on the show, but then maybe sometime down the line, weeks, months, years, we'll have your art to help bolster the production of the show, like Jonathan F's jingle for the Re-Enchantment. And if all else fails, you can produce the show with your treasure, of course. And the amount barely even matters, okay? Whatever it is that God's given you, whatever makes sense, you can come in, support the show. A big shout out to all of our monthly producers, people who have committed and pledged to say, hey, you know what? I get value often. I plan on getting value. I want to sign up. I want to support you monthly. If it weren't for our monthly producers, it would be a lot scarier doing what we're doing. So big shout out to you. But of course, executive producers get a big shout out as well, because when you come in, you produce the show for any amount that you like. If you produce the show for $100 or more for any individual episode like this, you're an executive producer. So we like to thank our executive producers right up here up top. And I'll start with executive producer, scrolling. Sir Jamie, not the Lannister, comes in.
Sir Jamie, good to see you. Thank you, Sir Jamie.
Coming in with your tithe. Appreciate that. God bless you. Hope you're doing good, buddy. Next up, we have executive producer Gumbrati. Yeah, Gumbrati comes in for a nice round number, which is a good reminder. If you come in, support the show on a nice round number on the 10 or the 5, that's you telling us you'd prefer we do not disclose the amount. If you don't mind us disclosing the amount, you can add 33 cents on there, 77 cents, count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 11, something like that. That's just you having fun telling us you don't mind us disclosing the amount. Gumbrati coming in with a generous executive producership and a note here that says, thank you so much for all you do. Please play Lint Trap, Aborted Feces, and nom. See that?
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, Lint Trap, a nice long one. We can maybe play a second of it, but then play it in the mixtape at the end of the show for him. Give him the whole thing there.
What was the other two?
Aborted Feces? I don't remember what that is. Maybe let's see if it comes up here.
All right, here, let's see. Let me check here.
Can I tell you a sort of a twisted pleasure that I have? It's okay. No. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint. Clearing out that lint trap.
Yeah, and then we got this.
Aborted feces.
That's what it was.
Aborted feces.
Nice.
What was the third one?
Well, nom.
Oh, nom. Yes. Oh. And that's the CIA. I think we turned that into a jingle as well. Let me just double check here. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gumbrati. And he ends the note with Romans 8:31, which I will read. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? Amen. Thank you, Gumbrati. Next up, we've got the one, the only executive producer, Sir LX Protocol V2 Bariner, the Brian Protocol.
Thank you.
For $100.33. Sir LX Protocol is on a 492 episode streak and a 146 episode executive producer streak.
Wow.
And last but not least, again, Cage Rattler Coffee is now on a 3-episode executive producer streak. Incredible.
Whoa.
That's right. Go to CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
Get on over there, folks. Cage Rattler Coffee. This is coffee for Canarians, by Canarians, supporting the show, value for value. Trust me, you're never going to want any other coffee after going to Cage Rattler Coffee, because we, of course, are forced in this world, in this mammon-worshipping hellhole, to give our money for our essential needs, like coffee, to big evil corporations that hate everything we stand for and use our money to dominate the world and perhaps even the spiritual world around us. Not to mention that the coffee's moldy and bad and burnt. What you want is you want to get single origin, GMO-free, organic coffee from around the world, lovingly roasted by a Canarian, packaged in Canary crap packaging. Got your Nephilim Hunter dark roast, your Emu Wrangler medium roast. Get on over there. Not only do they support the show value for value, but you're also supporting with that sweet, sweet parallel economy. People just like you, Canarians supporting the show, Canarians who are on top of it. They are part of the family, keeping their families fed and helping out the show at the same time. Go to CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Do it. Yep.
You
I
know,
just took a sip just now.
we got a bunch of messages. I don't have them right in front of me, but a bunch of messages of people who went and took advantage of the Cage Rattler Coffee gold back special, where with every bag of coffee, you got some physical gold to stack. People are very excited. Those deliveries started coming in, landing, and people have nothing but the most awesome things to say about Cage Rattler Coffee. So you should probably join in and enjoy the Cage Rattler. I don't know if the gold special is going on now, but Cage Rattler Coffee itself is made of gold, so it's a win-win either way.
I'm waiting for a rapper to rain down some goldbacks in their videos.
It'll happen. Really that's a great Red Book prediction. That's a great.
I've been saying it for a while, but I think it's going to happen at some point. Everyone's going to be like, "What is that?" And then instead of greenbacks, we'll be in the goldback era. You know?
Yeah, it'll make it cool. It'll make goldbacks cool.
Yeah. Listen to this paper. Listen, this is just. I can rip this, but I cannot rip.
Get that Illuminati symbolism out of here.
Goldbacks are hard to rip. So anyway, go ahead.
Just a couple of other producers came in under the executive producer amount, so I want to thank them. I want to thank producer Adele T.
Adele T. Thank you.
Came in for 8888.
Wow.
Hey, very nice.
Thank you.
I think we have an 88 jingle for you. So
do we?
88 miles per hour, baby.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
Speaking over the flawless victory.
We of course also have producer Rebecca T comes in for 1234.
Nice, thank you, Rebecca T.
And she's on a 29 episode streak.
Yeah, she's on a streak.
Yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's Wednesday, so we're going to thank our streakers who are coming in. They come in under $7.77, which does not entitle you to have a note read on the show, but we do thank them on Wednesdays, usually because they're keeping big, long streaks going, like producer Dame Tinfoil Hat, keeper of the seeds, who's on a 217 episode streak.
Yeah, she's on a streak.
She's coming up on the 223 streak.
She's coming
very close.
Yeah. Next up, we got Sir Casey, the Shield Knight.
Sir Casey, the Shield Knight.
Sir Casey, the Shield Knight.
Thank you very much.
631 episodes in a row for Sir Casey.
Oh, there's no buttons. It's off the scale. There's not even a button to press for it.
The Richter scale.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple things before we jump into our next story. We had some producer requests come in. If you don't know, now you know. Producing the show spiritually is also a very important thing to do. And our producers is anyone who prays. Who prays? Do you pray? Then you're a producer. So listen up. Let's hit that producer jingle.
Producers, assemble!
We had some prayer requests come in on the text message alert system. 970 says, please pray for my brother. He was moving a large stove range with appliance straps at his work and severely injured his back. Hospital took an x-ray and bones are good, but they saw some indicators of soft tissue damage. Right now, he is on bed rest, muscle relaxants, and steroids to manage pain. He has a very physically demanding job, and doctors say it could take up to 3 months for recovery. Ay, ay, ay. Thank you for calling that in, 970. And everybody, we are praying for 970's brother. Did we get a name? I don't think we did, but there you go, brother of 970. Ay, ay, ay. This just seems to be the season for tweaking or breaking or straining or whatever. No fun. So, of course, we're praying for not only strength and a rapid healing and the skills of the doctors to get brother back in business, but also supernatural healing for brother, and also provision, supernatural provision, so that this doesn't get in the way of providing for the family. So
Absolutely.
God bless you, 970. We're praying for you.
Yep, praying for you.
One other one, Monica texted in and said, would you please pray for Seth? He is sick as a dog and is supposed to travel Friday. Pray that he is able to rest and heal quickly, please. Thank you, and God bless the Canary Cry Kingdom of Believers. Monica. Thank you very much, Monica. We're doing it.
Monica. Yep.
Pray for Seth right now. Write it down in your prayer journal. We're praying for Seth, everybody, who's sick as a dog and has things to do on Friday. Again, we're praying for supernatural rest, supernatural healing, and that the things of life does not force Seth to have to get out of bed. You know, he's got to sit, he's got to heal. God has created our bodies as amazing healing machines, and you'll be all better. Praying you'll be all better by Friday, so you can just be exactly where God needs you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's it for now. That's all I'm seeing right now. Apologies if I missed anybody there, but very important. Producers, get on it. Other than that, I think we're good to go. Did you have anything else?
Don't think so.
Nomen Prute just told me he sent a speak pipe. We'll have to do that on Monday. Nomen Prute, just to let you know. I see it though. Very good.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's talk a little biblical.
It's got to be biblical.
Also, Palantir.
Special thanks to our sponsor, Palantir.
Artificial intelligence. Surveillance state.
Space Pope Reptilian.
And the Pope. All coming together in one article. And we did a little bit of analysis on this last episode. Was it last episode? Maybe it was last week. I don't remember. Time is definitely an upside down flat circle at this point for me. It's all confusing. But the New York Post published an opinion piece last week, I believe, maybe a couple weeks ago. Peter Thiel versus Pope Leo. Silicon Valley and the Vatican battle over who's the real antichrist.
Fight night. Antichrist fight night. Peter Thiel versus the Pope.
The Cold War has broken out between Silicon Valley and the Vatican as they accuse one another of jeopardizing humanity's future.
Oh my gosh, what a world we live in, Gon. You know, Antichrist battles used to be the purview of fringe Christian weirdo podcasts and YouTube videos for many, many years. And now the Antichrist wars have moved to the global stage. Silicon Valley, the gods of Silicon Valley, and the masters of the Vatican going at it.
Let's get ready to Antichrist. In a Monday encyclical letter, this is last week, Pope Leo the 14th warned mankind is facing a, quote, risk of being misled by deceitful goals.
Oh
yeah, the Pope quoting age of deceit. In the age of AI, and called on regulators to stand up to its creators. The 42,000 word manifesto, he should have written 144,000 words. That would have been more on point there. Manifesto comes after Peter Thiel has repeatedly argued in a global speaking tour, including in Rome, right outside Vatican City, that a powerful figure trying to stymie technological progress will turn out to be the Antichrist predicted by the New Testament. It's a frankly bizarre standoff between two very different Christian predictions about the future of AI.
I don't know if I would necessarily. Yeah, I think they're getting a little funky calling them both Christian predictions, but okay. Don't need
artificial intelligence.
I mean, they can't give us a category because we were right about AI and the emergence and the societal effects of what a product with AI capabilities will do to civilization. But, hey, we're just chop liver over here, we're just yapping into microphones. It's a frankly bizarre standoff between two very different Christian predictions about the future of AI, one in which AI delivers us to our maximal human potential, and the other in which AI represents an existential risk to our very humanity. While the Pope warns AI's creators are playing God and flirting with disaster, Thiel has been arguing that anyone who stands in their way is a legionnaire to the Antichrist. Now, we kind of knew this. I found this article more recently, but it really did express, I think, what we've been seeing is there needs to be an explanation for the effects of AI with, we've been talking about artificial intelligent personhood. What does that mean? Is it conscious? Is it, does it have a mind? Does it therefore have a soul? That kind of stuff, right? Is it demons? But with any good control mechanism, you cannot have a ubiquitous single ruling ideology. Or a single person or individual or concept that everybody agrees on, because you cannot control the masses that way very well. At least,
you need the dialectic.
Need the dialectic. Yeah.
You need dialectic. You need preferably controlled opposition.
Yeah.
You need the at least the illusion of choice.
Right. The illusion of choice. And given, of course, for us, it's like, hey, God rules and we are his image bearers and imagers. Therefore, we go out and we reflect and bring the kingdom of God to earth, not literally in the sense that, the kingdom is here in the flesh and blood per se, where we have a new heaven and a new earth right now. But the ideologies, and then, of course, physically at some point when Christ returns and restores everything. But in the context of AI,
which is opposed to Peter Thiel, right? The Orthodox Christian thing is that Christ will return, and then will come the physical manifestation of the kingdom,
the restoration of our bodies and the creation itself.
Whereas Peter Thiel's thing is, no, we need to create the AI kingdom of God to stop the Antichrist. We need the beast system to stop the beast system.
So much like, we have the Democrats and Republicans, two wings of the same bird concept. This is what I think is being created here with this Catholic versus Protestant flavor of AI. And obviously, we lean more towards Protestantism in terms of actual sort of theology, but not Peter Thiel.
Yeah,
Protestantism.
Peter Thiel is the representative of Protestant.
I know that's what's okay. We'll get there. The New Testament predicts that a seemingly compassionate false prophet will seduce humanity with false promises of peace and prosperity, but ultimately cause suffering before the true Messiah returns. Again, it's New York Post, so maybe not fully grasping the difference between sort of the Antichrist figure and the false prophet. The first beast, second beast thing. But anyway, Theil, a Protestant, believes that this biblical moment is imminent. In his view, AI is on the precipice of delivering humanity to its pinnacle, and an Antichrist figure will soon rise up to oppose this techno-utopia. Okay, quote, in the 21st century, the
Antichrist is going to oppose the techno-utopia.
Yes. Quote, in the 21st century, the Antichrist is a Luddite who wants to stop all science, he warned in an October lecture. Quote, in late modernity, where science has become scary and apocalyptic, the Antichrist has somehow become anti-science. And this is so perfect.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's so perfect for like the gal who wrote that New York Post article, because she can kind of hold on to her Enlightenment world.
Yeah, this is
find
directly
a
related.
community. Yes,
yeah, you're right. And yeah, gosh, what a genius diversion to say that being anti-science is for the antichrist. Again, going back to the Tower of Babel, that we as humans are empowered as gods to create the heavenly utopia through technology.
Yeah, this goes to show what guys like Anthony Fauci was saying over the years.
Science is truth.
And it's not far from what Peter Thiel is projecting here.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they made the
Mhm.
votive candles, you know, the kind of Catholic votive candles of Anthony Fauci, sort
Yes.
of making him a saint back in the day. It's Peter Thiel doing the same thing.
Same thing. And for those of you who may be new to the show, we've actually been tracking Peter Thiel for a long time in terms of, the cultural things that he's been up to with Palantir over the years. And we were probably, I wouldn't say maybe the first, but we definitely noticed right away that a homosexual man who claims to be Christian, billionaire tech industry guy is suddenly doing lectures on the Antichrist. I mean, he was doing this like 4 or 5 years ago, and I think we identified it right away. And nobody was really talking about it in our sphere, but now everyone's talking about it, obviously. So, too little too late sometimes. Thiel has been delivering his message about the Antichrist in speeches since at least 2023, right? So, yeah, at least 2023. He's never publicly named who he believes is the Antichrist, though he said the Antichrist has many legionnaires, including AI doomsayer like Eliezer Yudkowsky, author of the book, what is it? Eliezer. Eliezer Yudkowsky, author of the book subtitled "Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All." Okay. In an article published several months ago after Leo's appointment, Thiel also noted how various popes were suspected of being the Antichrist. He also derided Leo as a, quote, woke American pope, and said that he worries about the fact that Vice President J.D. Vance, whose political campaign he has contributed to generously, is, quote, too close to the Pope. Quote, the slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, he said in December 2024 at the Hoover Institute. I believe we played these clips before, where he predicted the Antichrist, quote, probably presents as a great humanitarian who will tell his fearful followers that, quote, the stakes are so extreme. And, framing the Pope as the Antichrist and doing so from the Protestant view is, they're literally taking a page out of Martin Luther and just like modernizing it. He's like, oh, Martin Luther was able to do it. Let's just do that. Let's get our theses together and smack it on the door of the Catholic Church. And yeah, you're the Antichrist. It's the exact same, but it's like AI, like AI doing the work. In Monday's encyclical letter, the Pope said just that. The stakes are indeed extreme. He warned AI could cause mass unemployment, the dissolution of family units, and unprecedented warfare. Leo advocated for, quote, the protection of employment in the face of AI, arguing family, quote, is a fragile social good immediately affected by the economic and technological transformations reshaping the nature of work. The Pope also warned that it is, quote, not permissible to entrust lethal warfare decisions to AI, such as automated targeting for missiles and drones, and predicted doing so would, quote, only bring about conflict more quickly, lower, quote, the threshold for violence, and reduce, quote, victims to data. I think we broke down some of that a couple episodes ago as well. He called out Silicon Valley giants like Thiel directly, accusing them of, quote, monopolizing expertise, data, and decision-making authority, and imposing power, quote, from above in an opaque and unilateral manner. Sort of the soft power thesis that currently does exist with the format of software and, sort of the disproportionate power some of these folks behind the software have compared to the people in front of it. Anthropic co-founder Chris Olah spoke in support of the Pope's warnings, plural, at the Vatican on Monday, though one should ask whether Anthropic is in any way different or just posturing, billing itself as the quote-unquote good guy in a crowd of bad actors yet in reality offering exactly the same product. So it is really fascinating how you create the two sides, right? You create the right left paradigm. You create the Catholic Church going against AI, or at least AI progress in a certain way. And then you create the pro tech, pro AI guy, and then you put him head to head. And then you get all the different priests from the different corporations like Anthropic to, kind of posture themselves on different sides. And then, you got a story to tell if Chris Olah abandons the Pope and decides to join Theil in the pursuit of, proper AI to prevent the Antichrist or whatever it might be. So you can see how all of this is being politicized. The Pope also advocated for AI regulations, including independent checks and transparency about algorithms. Yeah, I don't know how well that's going to work. I mean, at this point, if AI is doing the checks and transparency, or the checks and balances of algorithms of AI itself, you're not going to outpace AI. That's the thing. You're not going to be able to, as a human, be like, well, let me get a really smart programmer to go in there and read the algos and decide whether it's going to be no, it's way too slow of a process. So if the Pope wants to do that, he's going to have to leverage AI to do that for the purpose of speed. And of course, it just seems like a bad setup overall.
Yeah, none of it's even practical, right?
It's not. It's really not practical.
It's just he's the Pope. He has to say something.
He has to say stuff.
Again, it goes back to kind of the controlled opposition thing, right? They need both sides of it. And, that's part of what the Pope is there to do, is at least to create a sort of managed opposition. And, talk about the quintessential historical two sides, Protestants versus Catholics.
It's too easy. It's too easy. It's too easy to do. Thiel has warned that the Antichrist will call for global regulation and bring about a, quote, one world government. The Pope also seems to be critiquing the pseudo-religious savior complex of some big tech execs. He warned humanity to resist being seduced by, quote, the prospect of a technology that promises to free us from all weaknesses, and emphasized that, quote, pressing duty to remain profoundly human in the age of techno-optimization. Stay human, everybody. It's almost like the Pope is taking on the side of the Terrans, in the Dr. Hugo de Guerres context of the Cosmists versus the Terrans in the Artelect War. This may be a response to transhumanism. Look at that. It's entered the foyer. This may be a response to transhumanism, a vision for humanity's future popularized by some Silicon Valley execs that insists man and machine must merge to become cyborgs to reach our full potential. In addition to being a Christian, Thiel identifies as a transhumanist.
Mm-hmm.
He defended transhumanism in a July New York Times podcast where he explained his vision of a, quote, radical transformation where your human body, your natural body, gets transformed into an immortal body, end quote. Quote, we want you be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body to transform your whole self, he said. Which is so crazy because it's you can see how Thiel is leveraging the overlap linguistically of the promise, the resurrected bodies, the power of Jesus Christ risen from the dead. He's using the verbiage of the resurrection to be like, hey, change your hearts, like repent, change your mind, similar, like repent, change your whole body. Your body is the temple. Transform your whole self. It's like, no, that's the wrong thing. That's not what we want to do. So it's just so interesting how
it's just another example how his thing is exactly the opposite, right? It is the exact counterfeit opposite of the robust eschatological study throughout all of Christendom, but especially recently, which used to be, of course, kind of a fringy thing, but is very popular now. And it's, we talk about all these new people, all these new Christians, millions of former normies who are getting introduced to eschatology through the mainstream alt media, Tucker Carlson's, Candace Owens, and without a sort of mature, long-running study of eschatology, which it has to be. You can't just listen to a podcast and get it all. And without that, it is sort of dangerous to like be a new Christian or a sort of normie Christian,
cultural Christian,
hear about end times theology on Tucker Carlson, and that's it, and leaves you in direct threat of Peter Thiel coming in using all the right language, making all the right references, but giving the exact opposite implication of what the scriptures say.
And this is early on in the study of transhumanism and religion, and and by the way, Carl Teichert is part of that research early on in the Game of Gods. He does talk about that. And one of the early pro-transhumanists religious groups was the Mormon transhumanists, and there was also the Christian transhumanists. They haven't been very loud. I'm surprised they've been very quiet since everything has gone down. But they promoted the same idea, interestingly enough, that like, hey, the Bible talks about new eternal bodies and immortality and all this kind of stuff, and that's what technology is trying to solve. I don't see a difference. And he's sort of, Peter Thiel stepping into that role is supercharging that whole concept. But it's interesting because the Pope is also going at this from the pro-humanity perspective, which it's interesting. It can be very confusing unless you're, I guess, been at it like we have for obsessing over this topic for 15 years. Okay, let me continue here. While the Pope suggests deviating from our humanity is dangerous, Theil argued during the podcast that transhumanism aligns with, quote, Judeo-Christian inspiration. Quote, it's about transcending nature. It's about overcoming things, he explained. People are fallen. You are supposed to transcend that and overcome that. But the Pope isn't having that. In his encyclical letter, he admonished, quote, any effort that, quote, sacrifices human dignity for efficiency and aspires to reach heaven without God's blessing, end quote. But of course, the Pope, not Pope Leo, but Pope Francis was pushing vaccines 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like you're coming at this from both sides. Like, we got to stay human. Do not sacrifice your human dignity and your humanity, and don't abandon God in your pursuit for godhood or whatever. But also, we must have vaccines for everything. It's just like, man, you just can't win. Each man is using his Christian faith as a lens to analyze AI, and they each have come to the same conclusion, that the other could be the harbinger of disaster. While both paint apocalyptic visions of the future, AI has yet to turn the world completely upside down. Okay. For the moment, millions of mundane and routine tasks are being automated. Perhaps AI will continue on to displace meaningful human labor, or maybe its aid will free up our time and unleash new frontiers of creativity. For the moment, we're still a long way off mass destruction or a cyborg-filled techno-utopia, let alone proving the existence of an antichrist.
No,
that's how the article, the article ends trying to comfort us. Hey, we're not at the super techno dystopia or the techno utopia. Not even close to this antichrist thing, despite the fact that we have two figures being painted as the leaders of two of the biggest denominations of Christianity, loosely, Protestantism and Catholicism.
This goes back to the conversation about the mass media being the ones to create consensus reality. You've got this story of an obvious, play by the enemy, right? This false dialectic, this controlled opposition, making Peter Thiel the representative of Protestant antichrist theology with his exact opposite, creating this kind of cage match again between Catholics and Protestants, which is a huge sort of cultural move we've seen recently after the sort of revival of Christendom. And then the New York Post coming in as the, don't worry, we're still here to tell you what consensus reality is. And when it's all said and done, trust us, the New York Post, we're a long way off from mass destruction, let alone the proving of the existence of the Antichrist. Okay, so don't
this
worry.
makes me wonder if we are extremely close.
Yeah, right.
If the New York Post is telling us, "Hey, we're still kind of far," it's like, oh, maybe we're a lot closer than comfort. But
Right.
yeah, I think it's interesting that it's being framed in this way, and much like, again, politics, the divide and conquer is at play here. Either one of them does turn out to be the Antichrist, or neither. You know what I mean? Like, it is true that this doesn't prove the Antichrist is or isn't or whatever. The spirit of Antichrist is certainly present. I believe in both, so it doesn't really matter as far as the specifics go. Like you said earlier, I think we're more concerned about new believers being sucked into the paradigm. Like, oh wait, do I agree with the Pope or do I agree with Peter Thiel? Not knowing that there's a lot more nuance and a lot more grounded ways to approach this topic from a spiritual or biblical point of view. And of course, we've been trying to provide that path for a long time. It's like, no, we're going to shut down your YouTube channel. We're going to take everything that you love away and, come after you in ways that we haven't even made public. So there you go. That's
okay.
That's where we're at with all this stuff.
A couple of fun updates here as we wind down the show. Talking about sort of the mainstreaming of previously kind of fringy things. We have some updates on bugs here. Lots of bug news recently.
Well, specifically, we got the tick jingle.
Ticks.
And it's funny. I was going to say the politics jingle has always been about ticks as well.
It's Latin for many.
Tick.
They'll suck your blood.
Politics.
Your blood.
Isn't that interesting that we've really tapped into all this stuff? So yes, we have a couple of articles here, and I don't think the specifics are as important as the headline, which I think is what tells the story here. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, if I may, for a moment, just as a quick setup, we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks, of course, there's lots of online chatter. There's a lot of independent journalism and all that kind of stuff. Going back to Alpha Gal, the ticks, we covered these things many years ago. The Bill Gates creating the mosquitoes to vaccinate everybody. This stuff has been floating around sort of on the internet, the back end of news, I suppose, for a long time. But what we have here, of course, been tracking DailyMail's effort to sort of introduce or initiate a new group of normies to this sort of back end fringy research. We saw it in a lot of examples recently when it comes to UFOs, MK Ultra, CIA things, chemtrails. Daily Mail has done a good job of sort of introducing that to more of a secular audience, mainstream audience rather. And we have here a pair of articles that really, if you're not paying attention to the Daily Mail and sort of the meta-analysis like we have, this would kind of just like breeze right past you. But they do give an introduction and an update to the ticks stories that have been going around, as well as the mosquito stories. And there's some interesting hints being given in both of these articles. So number one, it's got Google sponsored mosquitoes. Google
we gotta read the headline properly here.
Oh, is that
the headline
that
by the
like
Daily Mail? Oh, maybe you got a different version.
No, you're right.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Google sponsored mosquitoes is like the title of that video. But yeah, the proper headline for this Daily Mail article is Outrage. as Google plans to release 64 million bacteria-infected mosquitoes in 2 U.S. states. This must be stopped.
Must be stopped.
Outrage.
The news is the backlash, right? The news isn't the mosquitoes. The news is the response. Google is facing backlash over plans to release millions of bacteria-infested mosquitoes in 2 states, a project critics have dubbed one of the largest open-air biological experiments in human history.
Love it. Google doing it.
Critics.
Google doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing is, we've the tale of Bill Gates, of course, has a long storied history. Bill Gates was the one, even during COVID, talking about giving, vaccines or various infected mosquitoes, setting them free to, whatever, inoculate people or something like that back in the day. But Bill Gates has had a little bit of trouble recently, right? He's really fallen out of favor. He's kind of had to disappear. He's a little too connected to Epstein. I just read like this whole big, long Wall Street Journal article about Bill Gates and his battle to like win back his reputation. It's not working even for the former, lovers of Bill Gates can't find their way back into his graces. And it was in that article, it mentions how Bill Gates has sort of been passing off, taking his name off of a lot of his global projects, a lot of his, vaccine research, because he's so unpopular that his name has become sort of venomous rather, to these projects. And it looks like somehow Bill Gates has passed off the infected mosquitoes to Google. Apparently they're still popular enough to poison the whole country.
Here, you guys have to be the face now. I'm tired of being the face.
Yeah, how insane. Like, take mosquitoes, like the closest physical manifestation of demons that we have on this earth that play no reasonable or important place in the ecosystem, that are pure demons, right? Hated by everybody, loved by none. Even just the fact that the buzzing noise in their ear triggers some sort of like ancient fear in our brains. I think it's got to be supernatural. So like Google's like, yeah, people love us enough. I mean, they can't not love us. There's nothing they can do about it. We'll release the demons. Don't worry, Bill Gates. You don't have to take the hit. Google is facing backlash over plans to release millions of bacteria-infected mosquitoes in 2 states, a project critics in general, have dubbed one of the largest open-air biological experiments in human history. Backed by Google's parent company, Alphabet, the proposal seeks federal approval to deploy 32 million modified mosquitoes. Why couldn't they make it to 33? What's the point?
It probably, yeah. I think the person that wrote this article didn't have the memo. It's probably like 32.5. They're supposed to round up to 33, but they didn't realize what was going on.
32 million modified mosquitoes annually. So this is every year across California and Florida beginning next year. Yeah, it's good. You only have to deploy them on 2 separate states, because you do one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and then the mosquitoes can kind of merge in the middle and get everybody.
Yeah.
If approved, the 2-year program would result in a total of 64 million mosquitoes being released into the environment. The aim is to look at the bold and the clickable link, right? So you've got the blue bold text and then the regular text, right? So really making it stand out. The aim is to reduce populations of disease-carrying mosquitoes using.
All right. I thought it was. I thought they were trying to depopulate the earth or something.
There's kind of this little signal in DailyMail, right? Why not hyperlink that whole thing? Why only hyperlink the thing that is so specific to Bill Gates and his history of population reducing science and the whole conspiracy, right? I think DailyMail, whoever's doing the grunt work on putting these links in there, I think they knew what they were doing. The aim is to reduce populations of disease-carrying mosquitoes using what researchers describe as good bugs. Males carrying a
good.
naturally occurring bacterium called Wolbachia. Male mosquitoes also do not bite. This is exactly what Bill Gates was saying when he wanted to do it. He says, no,
Yeah.
don't worry. We're only giving it to the male mosquitoes. They don't bite. Leaving out the part that the whole point is that the male mosquitoes mate with the female mosquitoes and spread this infection to the offspring, which then will be carried by female mosquitoes who do bite. When the infected males mate with wild females, the females still lay eggs, but the eggs fail to develop and hatch. Sure. Gradually reducing mosquito populations over successive generations. Sure. While the method, by the way, gradually reducing mosquito populations over successive generations, that's not true. That reduces mosquitoes instantly in one generation.
I was gonna say it should be done in one generation if this is so effective.
If the eggs are not developing, there is no next generation. It's just bogus from the start.
Yeah.
While the method has been around for decades, many Americans are outraged by the prospect of releasing millions of insects into the wild, with some declaring this must be stopped. And it goes into sort of the legal battle, the political battle. But I think stopping right there is a good idea, because it's the main point, talking about how the idea of releasing millions of insects into the wild, modified insects, because this is exactly the problem with the ticks. The ticks that have a history of bioengineering in South Carolina. Many people believe Lyme disease was a government project
disease. Yeah.
And now we have alpha gal, which is a thing that makes people allergic to meat. And the clips are all going around from the World Economic Forum say, isn't it great that we can make people allergic to meat? And that'll that'll save the climate. We don't need to eat cows.
The line of logic here, which
was also a Bill Gates project, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they know it'll work in the mosquitoes because they got it to work for the humans, and this
Outrage.
Like strange mosquito jihad project that they got going on here.
Yeah, the bugs, the bug jihad.
Bug jihad, yes. So wait, before you go on though, and we'll set up the next one, is that the hyperlink takes you to an article titled U.S. Military Under Investigation Over Claims That Weaponized Ticks to Spread Insidious Disease.
Oh, great.
And so the Lyme disease part of it, there was just a report that came out that said, hey, we got the vaccine for the tick-induced Lyme disease.
Right.
And of course, the people paying attention can see the problem reaction product, being set up here where, oh, okay, you got the Lyme disease jab from getting bit by ticks, getting Lyme disease from ticks. We're just, a couple notches away from getting the jabs for becoming allergic to tick-bitten.
The alpha gal. Yeah, they're already talking about the vaccine for the alpha gal syndrome.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's like, hey, you want to eat red meat, you got to get your jab. It's pretty crazy. So
it's all Bill Gates all the way
outrage.
down. And yes, they mention right here in this article the ticks. And so let's jump over to another article from DailyMail, which the headline reads, Outrage. Oh, outrage. Outrage. As scientists push to create ticks that spread red meat allergies. Isn't this biological terrorism? Now, up until now, as far as the mainstream is concerned, this idea that alpha gal was a genetically, modified thing has been totally taboo. Conspiracy theory. Totally. No. The government would never make, a thing. That's just crazy conspiracy theory. Well, right here, outrage as scientists push to create ticks that spread red meat allergies. Isn't this biological terrorism? A recently unearthed study has set off a tidal wave of outrage after scientists claimed it was morally justifiable. And we saw this during COVID too, right? We saw this during the vaccine conversation with COVID, where they decided it was morally justifiable, again, Bill Gates connected, morally justifiable to secretly vaccinate people, getting rid of informed consent. It's morally justifiable to vaccinate people without telling them, either through the food or through bugs or through something. So this is just an ongoing extension of the sort of moral debauchery of the COVID era. So, a recently unearthed study has set off a tidal wave of outrage after scientists claimed it was morally justifiable to infect people with a virus, making them allergic to meat. Researchers Parker Crutchfield and Blake Harith from Western Michigan University published an inflammatory paper in 2025, making the case that society had a moral duty to spread. These are the exact words that they used during COVID, to spread ticks that were infected or engineered to carry alpha-gal syndrome. AGS is a real medical condition transmitted to humans through tick bites, causing victims to suffer allergic reactions when eating red meat, including beef, pork, lamb, dairy, and other products derived from mammals. The symptoms can range from a mild case of hives or stomach pain to severe and even life-threatening cases of anaphylaxis, where blood pressure suddenly drops and the person becomes unable to breathe as their airways swell up. Crutchfield and Harith claimed it was morally wrong to eat meat because of the suffering animals endure and the environmental damage that the meat industry allegedly causes. Good job, Daily Mail. Good job. The alleged damage of the meat industry. They argued that the only reason society should not be spreading ticks to infect people with AGS today is that scientists do not currently have an easy and effective way to do it on a large scale. If only we had good bugs guns. However, they added, quote, but it is feasible to genetically edit the disease carrying capacity of ticks. If we are right, then today we have an obligation to research and develop the capacity to proliferate tick-borne AGS and tomorrow carry out that proliferation. One critic of the study replied, isn't this biological terrorism? Shouldn't they be thrown in jail? Now, this was interesting just on the media crit side, because even Daily Mail themselves, what they used to do would say, one crazy Facebook user says, isn't this biological terrorism? This white supremacist on X says, isn't this biological terrorism? Well, no, now they're just calling them critics, guns. It's just a critic. Hey, it's a critic.
Yeah.
The study authors did not conduct any medical experiments or new research to back up their claims, calling their paper a work of philosophy. And this is something we've been, this premise we've been working from for a long time. When it comes to scientists writing scientific papers, much of it is more works of philosophy than actual science. Or instead of philosophy, you can say ideology, right? Which goes to the religion of scientism, where they're not scientists and it's not science, but that it's the religion of science and they are the priests of scientism. And so, it's nice that they're just kind of saying it out right here, using ethical reasoning from different moral theories and assuming that meat eating is bad. Love they use the word assuming. Ethical reasoning from different moral theories, straight up saying like, they're cherry picking, right? There's no ground. They're not sitting on any ground.
This is subjective morality. This is not objective. This is a buffet of morals.
The ultimate result of proclaiming there is no God is that you can craft morality with your own opinions or whatever. Their main findings were that promoting genetically modified ticks to spread AGS would make the world better and help people become more virtuous by avoiding meat. And this is the really demonic part about this.
It is demonic.
Scientists using science to, quote, morally infect people with diseases, not just so they stop eating meat, but to make them more virtuous.
This is mark of the beast. This is mark of the beast logic.
Exactly. By virtue of the science and the philosophies of the scientists and the moral dictates of the priests, they gift you virtuousness. They're literal priests. Like, this is, kind of the Catholic priest thing. You need a Catholic priest to absolve you of your sins. You need someone to help align you back with God, to do it for you. And these scientists, quote unquote, are saying, no. It's not just a science thing. It's not just a health thing. It's not just a climate thing. We will make you righteous by poisoning you with these ticks.
Yeah. It's like the mark of the beast in that I'm running out of time here, so I'm looking at the clock. Those who don't take the mark, because the mark is offered to rich, poor, slave, it doesn't matter who. If you don't take it, then you're just a bad person, not contributing or not willing to participate in society. That's sort of the idea here. So very similar. I'm also seeing this this poll, Basil. Should scientists create ticks that cause meat allergies? Yes. Why not? No. Will it be abused? Maybe. Depends on if it benefits society. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I'm tempted to maybe, I don't know. No, it will be abused is my take. I don't know. What do you think?
See,
I just want to see results.
Even no, there's no on principle. Like, there's no final no, right?
It's like there's a caveat to the no. It's like, it'll be no because it'll be abused, not because it'll work.
Right. Not no because it's inherently evil on a rock solid foundation of ethics and morals and God, but no because we don't trust people, right? We don't trust authority. So no. Anyways, that's about as far as we need to go. But I will say, just finish out this section here. They also claimed that this process would not violate anyone's rights, despite proposing to intentionally infect the population with a life-threatening infection.
Well, they are deceived. Their consciences are seared.
That's exactly how they say it. They want to save you, right? They are bringing you not just health salvation, but virtuous moral salvation against your will, and that's why they can do it.
Look at this. I just clicked on just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's 2,866 votes here. 2% said yes, why not? That's 61 votes. No, 64%. That's 1,845 votes. Maybe 1%, 16 votes. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. 944 votes. 33% agree with us, Basil. Look at that.
There it is.
33% agree.
All right. Well, with that, Gons, let's go ahead and land the plane here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the show. Appreciate you being here. We're going to be back on Monday. Just to take a second, thank some other producers who come in and help the show with their time, especially a big old shout out to our timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Jade Bouncerson coming in with the timestamps for episode 945. Thank you very much.
Jade Bouncerson. Shout out to the Canary Cry Tech team as well. Thank you, Tech team. And as always, big thank you to Jam, who heads up the Telegram channel, Adam482, who heads up the Discord channel. I'm doing this by memory because I cannot find where I have these things written down. Let's see if I can do it. Where did it go? Is it on the doc? Do you see the list?
Plankonifius coming in.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Of course, thank you to Joe for the feedback. Oh, if join the communities, you need to do it. Join the Telegram or the Discord, or you can go to canarycry.community and join our own little social media over there. These are the people you need to get connected to. If you want the links, go to canarycry.party. You'll see the invite links there. Thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Sir Clank for clanking. Thank you to Sir Ike for everything you do. And share the show, folks. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your dog. Share it with the ticks that you see out there. There's, they don't know what they're doing. Forgive them, for they do not know what they do. They're just victims of the scientific religion, the weapons of the enemy to bring their sick version of moral virtue to the population. So share it with the ticks. We call it rattling cages. All you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird a few Cajun. Rattle a few Cajun.
Every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gabby in the chat says maybe these bug scientists should go missing. Yeah, you know, it's never the scientists you want to go missing.
That's true. I like that take. I like that.
You got any last words, Guns?
No. Well, thank you for being here for another episode. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on Monday.
That's right. I'll be doing Clubhouse tomorrow. Make sure to tune in, call in, say hi. And we're going to try to play a little lint trap here.
Yes, I will play it at the end. Yep.
Ground for the Canary Cry mixtape, everybody. All right. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
What if you're a grifter who needs to sell ads? We're gonna haunt you.
Alistair Crowley, devil worshippers.
I am having trouble doing the show.
Give me a break.
Shield.
Toilets! Feed him more.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
Can I tell you a sort of a twisted pleasure that I have?
It's okay.
Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap.
It takes time. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. It's like, a lint catcher. It's a great reset. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love peeling off that big old lint trap, rolling it into a ball, peeling off that big old lint trap. Just like throwing it in the trash, really. Should I be saving this?
No.
You could knit it into a scarf or something?
No.
Surely. It's very soft.
No.
This would make really good fire starter. You are a weird prepper. Hoarder. Like a weird guy, man. Weird prepper. Not normal, like a weird guy, man. Clearing out that lint trap.
No.
Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. That lint trap. I know it's gross, folks.
A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. It's like, a lint catcher. It's a great reset. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. A lint catcher.
I love it. I'm constantly having to remind myself to wear a pink shirt for the show. Constantly having to remind myself, save the dryer lint, use it as fire starter, knit a scarf, save the dryer lint.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cry.